the amount of money that they're projecting that they're going to pull in from this increase to the capital gains tax is going to be spent in about 4 days. At the rate of spending from the Trudeau government, they're going to go through this in about 4 days. So, folks, when you're watching this, you have lunch meat in your fridge that is going to last longer than this tax hike.
Your milk will last longer than this tax hike. And it's purely ideological, right? Like it's an eat the rich tax.
It is.
That's what it is.
Which is funny, coming from a prime minister who,
from Trudeau,
was born with. Did we talk about you don't pay the carbon tax unless you have a gigantic mansion and an indoor swimming pool and 3 big personal cars?
But let's talk about that, because Justin Trudeau says you don't pay the carbon tax unless you have an indoor swimming pool and a gajillion cars. He's describing himself, by the way.
Yes, very much. Very much.
How out of touch is this guy from the rest of us?
It was mind-blowing. And so for context, Prime Minister Trudeau was out here in our province. Sheila, I don't know why you invited him, but he was here.
You know why he was here? He was here undermining our provincial government. It was a housing announcement, and he cut our housing minister out of it because our housing minister said, you cannot strike these ideological deals with your Liberal mayor friends, Amarjeet Sohi in Edmonton, because he was attaching the housing dollars to green policies.
Yes.
And the mayor said, okay, fine, give us all the money. And the province said, you don't get to do this. The cities are a creation of the provincial government, and therefore we're in charge of them. So you're going to give us the money without your strings attached. You're going to get out of here. And so Justin Trudeau came anyway to undermine our provincial government because...
And during his press conference after that, he was asked basically about the carbon tax and why, I'm paraphrasing, but will you meet with the premiers? Because remember, for a while there was a big push to have a first minister's meeting, as they call it. That's a fancy way of saying premiers, with the prime minister to discuss why he's screwing everybody over with the carbon tax. And of course, Prime Minister Trudeau was saying, no, I don't want to do that. And then when the reporter pushed him, saying, okay, fine, but are you going to meet with Premier Smith and the rest of the premiers about the carbon tax? He kind of threw his hands up and he said, basically, as usual, you get more back than you pay in, which is nonsense for the average person, and we know that. But then he went on to say that, you know what, if you've got a gigantic mansion, an indoor swimming pool, and 3 big personal cars, yeah, you're going to feel the carbon tax. But if you don't, then you're made whole or you're better, is paraphrasing what he said. What was shocking about that is, like you said, he's describing himself. Also, because that's how he was raised. So 24 Sussex, it was a famous thing. Back when he was a little kid, his dad was prime minister. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was prime minister. They famously, taxpayers famously, built him an indoor swimming pool. And it's all, I've seen it. I've been in there. Not in the pool, but we did a little tour. And so it's all lined with cedar, and there's this little kind of a weird ground level skylight and stuff, like it's built into the ground. And there's a tunnel that leads to it. And so for him to describe this was just kind of this out-of-body experience, because the parliamentary budget officer has done the math. The average, not the highest, the average Alberta family will be out more than $900 this year, net, with rebates factored in. I don't know about you, Sheila, but the average Alberta families that I know don't have an indoor swimming pool.
Yes, if you have a giant mansion and an indoor swimming pool and, three big personal cars, it might not cover all of that. But for regular families that are hardworking, it puts more money in their pockets.
No, we have to have, by the way, we have to have above ground pools here because the ground heaves. It's like he thinks he knows nothing about Alberta whatsoever.
I didn't know that. That's so funny.
Yeah. Look around your neighborhood.
It's above ground.
In-ground swimming pools, because the ground heaves. It's a miracle of modern science that we even have roads here with the 80-degree swings and weather that we have.
I liked the 3 big personal cars, too. Like, he had to specify, because he didn't mean the ones that are driven by the help.
Right. The taxpayer-funded ones.
That are episode parked outside. So, yeah, all that is to digress, but it's right on point, because this is the problem. Fundamentally, like, all mockery aside, and politicians deserve to be mocked, mostly because they hate it, so we should do it as much as we possibly can. But all the mockery aside, the fundamental is this prime minister and his government don't understand that. They simply don't seem to understand the mathematics of why their budget is bad. They weren't contrite about it at all. They weren't saying, yeah, we know we're going to get back to balance in like 2 years. We still need to fix up a few more things that are left over from... They didn't even come up with any of those excuses. They just said, nope, here's a massive flaming deficit and we have zero plans to ever balance the budget. Oh, and we're protecting future generations and you should be grateful. And so this is why we're really kind of hitting the alarm bell here of saying, folks, like, write to your MP, because not all of them must think this way. There's got to be some common sense people within those government ranks that are thinking, really, this is the best we can do? Why are we doing this to people? Because they can't afford things, and it's largely because of things like inflation, which the government caused because they printed hundreds of billions of dollars, and the carbon tax. And now we're just seeing this tax increase on innovators and job creators, and it's not a good signal to send.
No, I think probably my favorite Justin Trudeau line from that whole week, besides the well, you guys, you're in your stupid swimming pools in your SUVs, was when he said, well, I already met with the premiers in 2016. And like, you met with Kathleen Wynne and Rachel Lally? Excuse me, well, we're on our third premier since then. 2016, what is that, 8 years ago? Okay, well, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed since then.
I know.
He basically was like, what are they complaining about? I met with them in 2016.
We had a meeting on carbon pricing, and every single premier came together to work on establishing a pan-Canadian framework on climate change years ago.
I know. It's one of these things where politicians really start losing the public when they get this out of touch. Yeah. And it was just such an out of touch speaking tour that he had here in this province that it really only galvanized, the provincial government's fight against him.